Hey TV fans, Board Now back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about The Last of Us Season 2 Episode 5. The episode is called Feel Her Love. Full spoilers from the start of this review as always. And yeah, this is another really tightly written, solid episode that escalates quite nicely by the end. It's another big episode for the Ellie and Dina relationship, and once again their dynamic is really well defined in the episode, but it never really slows the episode down. It all has like a purpose, and it's a nicely paced episode, I think, because it is quite a short episode. It's one of the shorter ones of the season, but they use the time quite nicely, and there's some nice little like character beats and storytelling beats. And once again, we see, I think, why Ellie and Dina are such a good pairing, both together, like working together, but also why their relationship is so good and why they gel so nicely, because of the two completely different things they bring and how that all comes together. I think what I'm finding interesting as someone who's not played the games is how we haven't seen Abby for a while, and they tease that we might see her in this episode, but then it doesn't quite happen, so it looks like that could be in the next episode we finally see her again. And probably in some ways by holding it off for a while, because basically it's been since episode 2, since the episode that she killed Joel, and that led to this whole mission for Ellie and Dina. It's been since then. I'm pretty sure we might have seen her briefly, I'm not sure, I can't remember, but I think it's been since episode 2. And I don't know if that's true to the games or not, or if it's just how you have to pace things out different for like a TV show, but I guess people can let me know in the comments without really spoiling anything. So, but I'm gonna assume, because I've heard that Abby's a big character in the Last of Us games, then they're probably gonna bring Caitlin Denver back for season 2, but I'm not really sure, because that might be one complaint I have. If by the end of this season, like, Ellie gets her revenge on her, and that's just sort of that. But again, as someone who hasn't played the games, I'm not really sure. But I would hope that maybe Caitlin Denver and Abby comes back for season, I think I said 2 by mistake, but I meant to say season 3. But I'll dive into the episode, and one good thing is, again, how things are connected and set up and paid off a little bit, because the actual opening scene, which is a sort of a smaller scene, is this woman giving intel to one of the fringe groups. It sometimes gets a bit confusing, but I think it was like the military one, and it's revealed that she lost a son, and it was actually her son who was killed by the Isaac character last week. So she's mourning him, and she's giving intel to this military officer, and the officer's like, sorry about the loss of your son, but she's getting the intel. And this is brought back up later on with Dina and Ellie and the whole plan, because in the opening scene, these two women are talking about how there's this big area near the hospital which is like cordoned off, and they're not quite sure why, but they're identifying that as something they can attack. And this is what comes up later on with Dina and Ellie. And one of the things I like about Dina in this episode is how it establishes, once again, that she is the more thinking woman's Ellie, and how she is the one who lays out the strategy. And like, there's definitely plenty of passion, and we see that later in the episode, that she really wants to get revenge for Joel as well. But she wants to do it in the right way, and she wants to do it in a safe way. And of course, what you have to remember now is that she's thinking and trying to protect double the people, because she's trying to protect herself, her unborn child, and she's also got Ellie to worry about, because they are like a couple now. So it's again good to see that contrast with Dina laying out the plan. She's doing the mathematical equations to try and figure out the coordinates. Again, that goes to her character that we've seen so far, and Ellie's like, oh cool, I know you know this stuff, so I'll leave you to it. And it's fitting that Ellie goes off and has a quiet moment and goes back to the music hall and is just sort of jamming on the guitar. She doesn't play any particular song this week, but she does strum the guitar a bit, once again still thinking about Joel. And I quite like this idea that that's kind of Ellie's like downtime, her quiet place, if she needs to take a time out. So later on, Dina reveals the coordinates, and that's when she mentions this big area which has been cordoned off, which they think could be the area they need to go to. And once again, we see good instincts by Ellie, because she flags this up. It's like, yeah, that's suspicious. Why would that big area there be marked off? So they both come to the conclusion that it must be infected. And this is when they decide to, okay, we're going to go in. We're going to do this. But the great moment in this scene is, of course, Dina, when they're laying out the strategy, and Dina points out, if we go in there guns are blazing, if we shoot at these things, it's going to alert this other group, the wolves, to our presence, and they're going to come in on us and we're going to be in trouble. So I like that she's telling Ellie cooler heads must prevail, and she's making it clear it's the last resort. Shooting is the last resort. If it's a choice out of shooting and running, we're going to run. And she makes sure she drills that into Ellie, which I really like. And there's one of these, like, she definitely knows Ellie, because she says, sure, you're erratic and exciting, and that's what I love about you, but I also want to survive. So again, you get some playful banter, which is really good. But the key part is her saying, I love you. And she said it in quite a casual way, but of course Ellie has to be quite mischievous and pick up on it. It's like, you love me? But what I really like about this exchange is Dina doesn't make Ellie say it back, because she knows the sort of person Ellie is, not always the most expressive with her feelings. She's about to say it, and then Dina cuts us off, says, it's okay, I know, let's get back to the plan, basically. And another thing I like about that exchange is it's a very natural reaction and interaction between the two. It feels like an exchange they would have, but it doesn't really slow down the plot. It just feels very organic, and it's like, okay, the mission is the focus here, but it never really took you out of the scene. So I thought that was very nicely played. And things slowly start escalating as they head towards the hospital area. Once again, there's some really good direction in this episode, again, as they get into this base. And there's some great infrared. Again, use of red is very strong. We see that at the end of the episode with Ellie. And there's another quite powerful moment as they're going along, as they find once again a group of people who have been killed. And this is where the episode title comes in, because as they see the bodies, you've got graffiti on the wall, which is the Jesus image, painted Jesus, but also it says, I feel her love, as a statement. And we've seen before how Dina isn't quite as used to this stuff as Ellie. So she is a bit more taken aback by it, kind of, like upset over it. And we see again that Ellie wants to be there for her and wants to support her, because she understands that too. They know each other very well at this point. But yeah, Dina then opens up to Ellie about the first time she killed anyone, and it was protecting her family from one of the infected, and it's really sort of harrowing story. But I like how it leads, or where it leads, sorry, because she's making a point that we've got to get revenge, because no matter what Joel did to Abby, there's no excuse for what she did to him and how brutal it was, and he didn't deserve that no matter what. And that again speaks to Dina being quite loyal towards Joel, and we do see that she cares about him, or maybe not as much as Ellie, but maybe almost as much, and that this mission is important to her. So it's a really powerful moment. The actress does a great job, because at one point Ellie is like doubting, okay, maybe you should hold back and go back, and I'll go on, this is on me. Because again, the fact that she's immune and all the rest of it seems to give her an advantage over Dina in these things, which makes sense. But it's in that moment when they discuss the past and Dina makes that point about Joel, how he didn't deserve this, then yeah, we're going to do this together. And it's a very brave thing Dina is doing, because, as I mentioned, her unborn child and all the rest of it. So they go on and they go to like the hospital, and they start planning, because the creatures are like downstairs, or they're somewhere off in the distance, but they're speculating, okay, we think this creature, and Ellie knows them quite well at this point. So Ellie, probably quite rightly, is quite smart in saying, because I'm immune, let me cause a distraction and we can go from there. And it's a very tense scene once again, and there's a good misdirect, because I didn't really see how then Jessie was going to pop up and save them at one point, because Ellie does what she says. She like puts herself out there and they all go for her, and she takes the blunt, and that allows Dina to run into like a cage, and it looks like she's safe, but then a load of them start swarming on the cage, which is locked, and got her pinned in. And again, the direction is really good. But yeah, out of nowhere, Jessie comes in, who we haven't seen for a while, and he saves Ellie and Dina, and that gives them enough time to escape. And it's like, okay, they start questioning, what are you doing here? And he tells them what happened, that him and Tommy started trailing them, or started as soon as they realised they'd like run away. The day after, they set off and started trying to track them. And he says he found them because of the plans, the map which Dina left in the theatre. And he's pissed at Ellie, obviously. And you know what was funny? For a minute, I considered maybe he was infected, because he says Tommy isn't with him. He says he's looking elsewhere. I'm going to meet him later on. And he's like, okay, we've got to come home. We've got to go home with Tommy. And Ellie's like, oh, obviously, no way. But I thought he might have been infected, because I thought they were heading that way, because Ellie particularly was like, what are you doing here? How did you find us? So a bit suspicious. And maybe, I don't know, because we never really get to that point anyway, but I'm assuming he's not affected, because like nothing really happens in this episode. It just crossed my mind that maybe it was. So they go off and they're hiding in the woods, and they see the religious group brutally killing someone. They've got him strung up, and it's a slice basically down his like front and we kind of see some of his blood and his like dropping out. It's a pretty brutal HBO style scene, although we don't see that much of it, but you can see that it's quite graphic, and probably having that distance from it, and we see it more through Ellie's eyes. I think that makes it a bit more effective as well. So it's quite tense, and they're trying to keep still and not make the others aware. And at one point, someone shoots an arrow into, I think it was Dina's leg, and that just sets things off a little bit, and Ellie creates a distraction and sort of peels off on her own, so then she can once again allow Dina and Jesse to go the other way and escape. So this is where it builds to the end of the episode, and it is perfect that Ellie gets separated, and once she's in the clear, she goes off to where she was going, like the destination, the hospital. Warner's Nora, who appears to be on her own. Nora sort of suckers Ellie in, like trying to make out that she's sympathetic. She says, yeah, what happened to Joel was really messed up. Sorry you had to see that. And Ellie just lets her guard down for long enough where Dina, because they're I'm not sure where they were, in some sort of a kitchen area or something, but she just chucks some powder over her of some sort, and that causes a distraction, and then she starts screaming out for the others, and that's when things get frantic again, and you get this sort of chase between the two, and at one point Ellie goes down into like an elevator, like this old sort of elevator type thing, and they go into the basement or up in the fungus, and we see them, they're sort of half dead, half alive, but infected. And once again, another thing which might come up at some point, which you're expecting them to answer, is how Ellie is immune, because that's something they haven't explained. And I remember when I was talking to Madison about season 1 and going into season 2, like she expected, and they are going to give us an answer to that. So that's something that crossed my mind in this scene where Ellie goes down and she sees the fungus. She's already been infected, but she believes that, okay, we're both infected, Ellie, we're both screwed. And then he's like, are we? And you can tell that people know of the reputation of Ellie, of there is this like special girl who is immune, and she realizes, oh well, you're her, and she's like, yep. And from this moment on, Ellie is like, she's got tunnel vision. She's like, tell me where Abby is. Goes ballistic, and we see how intense and how on point she is. And to be fair to Nora, no matter what you think of her and her group, she is very loyal, because as much as possible she's refusing to give Abby up. And there's a great callback to what happened with Joel, and this is turnabout is fair play in many ways. Very poetic, certainly, is that Ellie starts torturing Nora with the golf club. So very similar to what happened with Joel, where for ages Abby just battered him with the golf club. Maybe the same golf club, I'm assuming it could be. Whacking away with it, and she keeps repeating angrily, tell me where Abby is, and Nora keeps refusing, so we continue on. And then we cut to black, and we don't actually see if Nora gives up Abby's whereabouts, but we get a fun little Easter egg, because when it cuts back to after the fade to black, we get like a small quick scene which is in the past with Ellie waking up in bed, and Joel comes in. It's like morning, and it's just like a nice little Easter egg in between that and the fact then a reminder that, okay, she's doing all this for Joel, and that's it. We go to credits. So yeah, fun little cliffhanger, strong episode again. Things building quite nicely, as we've only got 2 more episodes this season now. It will be interesting, like I said, to see where we leave off this season and what the cliffhanger will be. Like, are they going to resolve the Abby plot this season? I suspect they probably won't, but again, as someone who hasn't played the games, I'm not really sure. Enjoyed this episode. I thought there was some great stuff with Dina and with Ellie again. There's some good horror scenes, some good world building. Nice surprise with Jesse popping up out of nowhere as well, so that was quite a fun reveal. So yeah, good stuff, I think. That's The Last of Us episode 5 of season 2. Just 2 more to go now this season because it is a shorter season. Feel her love. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Don't forget, when it comes to TV and similar kind of TV, I've also been covering the Yellow Jackets on this channel. I've also been covering the White Lotus, both in season 3, both just finished season 3, so you can check out my reviews of those on the channel. I also do horror movie reviews, including we've got a new Final Destination movie coming out, so if you have an interest in that franchise, I will be checking that out and posting a review later in the week. And we've done all the previous Final Destination movies on the channel, so you can check out a playlist of those reviews as well. But thanks for listening. Let me know what you think of this episode in the comments. Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye.